Okay. Hey. Um, this is my second video. I don't know why I did twos like this, but it happened. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is where did all of the healers go, right? Online. I want to talk about the shadow banning of different holistic practitioners and healers who are both licensed and unlicensed, and why is it that YouTube and different outlets seem to be, yeah, just making their content really difficult either to find or removing their content and creating all these obstacles for these individuals to give us their knowledge and share their wisdom with us. Okay, so I started noticing this when I would go on YouTube or go on the internet and I would type in liver detox, liver cleanse. And I want to say, like, maybe 5 years ago, you could type this stuff in and you would find somebody's auntie, somebody's uncle, your cousin who doesn't wear deodorant but just rubs rocks underneath their arms. Like, you would find all of these different individuals and be able to get access to their insight, even though you knew it wasn't, researched or backed by the FDA or by Duke University. We understand that nano wisdom, that wisdom and that herbal medicine that we've gotten through just like the legacies of our ancestry, that's really where it's at. So being able to have these people on the screen, on our different platforms, so accessible, meant a great deal to, I know, many of us, especially myself, as like a Black person who was into holistic health. So I started seeing as of late that now if you type in something related to astrology, if you type in something again related to herbal medicine or holistic health, you have Harvard, you have MIT, you have all of these institutions who weren't a part of the conversation at all now kind of making sure that their content is at the top of the list. So I would say be weary of that, because it seems like another form of erasure of intellectual property. These are pieces of information that have been passed on to us and that we've been practicing for centuries. So don't allow these institutions to come out of nowhere and suddenly act like they have been advocates for this type of knowledge, for this type of school of thought. It's trash. It's just a way for them to use capitalism to their advantage and take away from us something that we know is innate within us. You don't need them, even though I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of beneficial to see them finally providing the evidence that we've like had all along, but through different methodologies. In that sense, it's really great to have, you know, um, those resources and those citations, because if somebody who might not be as convinced about what we're saying has a question, we can redirect them to that knowledge. But I would say for the practitioners who are like you and me and we're just out here doing our thing intuitively and with our community, I would completely like avoid those um I would completely avoid those like platforms and those resources, because it's not that they're going to be inaccurate, they're just going to not be as substantial or hold like the weight that you are looking for. Um it's one thing to read about an herb and understand its properties. It's another thing to understand, the history of why you all started using that, um and how it culturally impacts you and other individuals by engaging with these types of medicines. So yeah, I want to know what you guys think about that. I find it really fascinating, and I brought it up to a friend of mine who noticed that too. Like, no matter what search engine she's on, she just can't seem to find the people that she used to be able to find. And we're talking about your 70-year-old, 60-year-olds, 50-year-old, 40-year-old people who are just like on YouTube sharing that wisdom. That's who you want to look to. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice, to be honest. Um, and the older, then the more aged that wisdom. So those are kind of the guides I try to use when I'm looking for information. And I am, again, just keeping my eyes out to see why these institutions that are backed by the American Western medical system starting to integrate a conversation or integrate information into their conversations without necessarily having the right leaders, the leaders that you and I have been following at that table. You know, we're talking about the Sebis, the Quinafuas, the Pukrams, the Laila Africa, like all of those are the kinds of people, those are the names you want to be listening for when you're seeking out different healers or holistic practitioners to see who their information is backed by. And again, yeah, it's a disservice to us that we're not able to find each other as easily as we were before. And it's super suspicious and very intentional to me. So I just wanted to talk about that. I myself have been shadow banned on Facebook and through like out the different Facebook platforms. And then also be mindful of who isn't being shadow banned and who is actually having their content uplifted a lot more by these different platforms. Those are people to be weary of when it comes to this type of like medicine or when it comes to this type of healing work. Not saying that the second you become credible, you're an op, but it's a curious thing to find that certain people and their messages are being pushed. Usually these people cater to whiteness a lot more. Versus just kind of like your everyday practitioner or your everyday student who really just wants to be with the plants and the herbs in spirit and through God, like figure out how our bodies were built to be able to sustain all of the stresses of life that we go through. So yeah, that is my video for today. Just questioning where all of the healers went, why they're all being shadow banned, and that's cue to go. Bye.